See, if you're doing the right thing, there's nothing to hide. You're innocent. You're like, you could check my books, you could check my phone, you could check my wallet, you could check my bill statement. An innocent person does that because they're right. They're doing the right thing. But somebody who's guilty, they're devious. Oh no, I don't want you to look at my phone. No, don't look at the bills. You could tell by the way they behave who's right and who's guilty.
Hey, but I'ma preach the word and none of that hate gon' work. Hey, hold up. Now I don't know what you heard, but don't believe anyone that can't show you the word.
The Bible says in Amos that my people are destroyed because of lack of knowledge. God said that it was his people that are being destroyed. It's not the wicked or unbelievers, it's his people. And why? Because they had no knowledge. And if you keep reading that chapter, it talked about the priests and the Levites not instructing the people. They didn't give them that information and they died because of it. But it's not good enough just to have knowledge, because you can have knowledge, but the thing is we got to have understanding, meaning once we get the information, we got to be a doer of that information. Like the Bible says, don't be a hearer of the word only, but be a doer. And that's why it's important we go through the book of Proverbs so we could get that knowledge. We won't be those people that are destroyed. So on Judgment Day, the pastor or the one that's feeding you, his hands will be clean. He'll say, look, I fed them. It was up to them if they wanted to continue or not. But we don't want to be those people that are destroyed because we have no knowledge. At least we've already gone through 20 chapters so far, and there's 11 more chapters to go. So let us get that knowledge. So at least we won't perish. At least we have the lifesaver not to perish. Now it's up to you to put on that lifesaver. And the thing is, it's a blessing that at least you have the lifesaver. Most people, most of God's people don't have a lifesaver. They're caught up in foolishness and nonsense, and they have no lifesaver. They have no knowledge. So at least let's get that knowledge, but also let's apply it. So let's go in Proverbs 21, verse 1. In the Lord's hand, the king's heart is a stream of water that he channels towards all who please him. In another version, click on it. In like the King James Version, it says that the hand... Okay, scroll down. It says the king's heart is in the hand of the Lord. So God controls the king's heart. God directs it. It says in the next verse. As a river of water, he turns it whithersoever he will. So God can maneuver what the king will do or not. Even if the king is opposed to God's will override his will. Like for example, in the Bible, Pharaoh, he might have let the Israelites go, but it was God's will for him not to let them go until the 10th plague. So God directed his heart whithersoever he wanted it to go. And God directs every king in whatever decision. I think of the Supreme Court ruling about abortion. We live in a wicked, perverse generation with wicked leadership, and yet God directed it that abortion can now be outlawed in certain states. How did that happen? God directed like water those in leadership. The king's heart he directed, and it was against his will. He didn't want it, but God's will prevailed. I go back. 2. A person may think their own way are right. A person may think their own ways are right, but the Lord weighs the heart. So we read this before, that your motives, you might think you have the right motive, or you don't have the right motives, but everybody else think you're doing it for the right reasons. But God knows your heart. You can't fool God. The reason why you do things, God knows. So God wants you to do things in sincerity and in truth, not pretentious, because he knows your heart. You can fool everybody, but you can't fool God. Verse 3, to do what is right and just is more acceptable to the Lord than sacrifice. All right. Again, back in those days, people used to sacrifice animals, but God would not accept your sacrifice if you're not doing what's right and just. So, and now we apply in our age. If you're not doing what's right and just, you could come to church and sing the songs or just step in a building and think, I'm making a sacrifice to God. But you know what? Your sacrifice is not acceptable because you're not doing what's right and just. God wants you to do right and just. And if you're doing what's right and just, you should offer an acceptable sacrifice. But don't think, oh, I'm doing this as sacrifice for God, so I'm just here. I'm just doing this. No, it's not acceptable. To do what is right and just is more acceptable. Verse 4, haughty eyes and a proud look. Notice, haughty eyes and a proud look. The unplowed field of the wicked produce sin. Click on that because there's let me go to King James. Let's see. A haughty look and a proud heart, and the plan of the wicked are sin. Okay, so a person that's sinful, one thing that they demonstrate is by their look. They have a proud look, and they have haughty eyes, meaning like they're puffed up. They roll their eyes. They have their eyebrows lifted. That's a sign. What it said, and the plan of the wicked is sin. It just shows what's in their heart. They might not even express it, but just by their look in their eyes and that proud heart, like I'm better, like I don't want to be around you. You're less than me. That is, and the plan of the wicked is sin. That's a byproduct. So, you could tell a person by their looks, by their facial expression, what's going on in their heart. So, I go back 5. The plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty. The plans of the diligent. So somebody if you have a plan and you're a diligent person, you're like, I'm gonna go through this and it's gonna take a lot of work, but I'm diligent. I'm not gonna stop. I'm not gonna give up. Those plans will lead to profit. In the end, you will succeed. But as surely as haste leads to poverty. So somebody that makes quick decisions, really bad decisions, is not going to succeed. But if you're diligent, you will succeed. So we don't want to click on that verse 5. Let me see the King James on that. It says, the plans of the diligent lead surely to plenty, or tend only to plenteousness, but everyone that is hasty only to want. So don't be hasty. Don't be too quick. Because if you make quick decisions, you might mess up. You make sure you really think about what you're going through. But if you're diligent, if you have plans and you're a diligent person, they will succeed. They will prosper. All right, go back, verse 6. A fortune made by a lying tongue is a fleeting vapor and a deadly snare. So if you're one of those that, like, for example, you trick somebody in their will and you say, you know what, just sign me and, forget that person. A fortune, if you made a fortune by that lying tongue, that fortune is like a fleeting vapor, is going to disappear because eventually it's going to be found out, and a deadly snare. Some people want to take vengeance on you for your lying tongue. So don't be deceitful. And especially if you're trying to get a fortune, you're trying to deceive people into getting that fortune. All right. 7. The violence of the wicked will drag them away. So if you're a violent person, you're going to be dragged away. Either the cops are going to drag you away, or your enemies are going to drag you away, beat you up, and kill you. The violence of the wicked will drag them away, for they refuse to do what is right. See, the violence of the wicked, they could stop and say, you know what, I want to do right, and they won't be dragged away. But they continue. The violence of the wicked, it will be dragged away. But there's some hope. If they start doing right, then they won't be dragged away. But the problem is, for they refuse to do what's right. They don't want to do what's right. So eventually they're going to get dragged away. All right, verse 8. The way of the guilty is devious. So somebody who's guilty, who know they're doing wrong, they like to be deceptive. They're not honest. They're not forthright. They're full of half-truths. The way of the guilty, somebody who's guilty, they know they're doing wrong. The way of the guilty is devious because they're trying to cover up their tracks. But the conduct of the innocent is upright. See, if you're doing the right thing, there's nothing to hide. You're innocent. You're like, you could check my books, you could check my phone, you could check my wallet, you could check my bill statement. An innocent person does that because they're right. They're doing the right things. But somebody who's guilty, they're devious. Oh no, I don't want you to look at my phone. No, don't look at the bills. You could tell by the way they behave who's right and who's guilty. All right, verse 8 and verse 9. Better to live on a corner of the roof than share a house with a quarrelsome wife. Better to live, Solomon is saying, look, it's better to live on top of a roof in a corner than to share a house with a wife that continually is arguing, always fighting. Later on he's going to use he's going to say the same thing in another way. So, but what is Solomon trying to teach us, especially the women? Look, women have a propensity to be quarrelsome. I remember watching a video yesterday. I wish I could post it up, today. It talked about a woman that says that that she never corrects her husband. She just she gives her perspective and then she lets him do the decision because she feels like if she corrects him, then that's not her husband anymore. You correct a child. So she's like feeling, he's supposed to be the head, and yet I'm treating him like a child. So I don't correct him. So she's trying to find ways to not be quarrelsome. But when somebody's quarrelsome, it's because they have their idea and this person has their idea. And instead of trying to negotiate and work it out, they want to butt heads. Or maybe they both are so determined, but instead of one saying, you know what, you got to do it, whether it works or not, you got to do it. No, they want to bump heads. A quarrelsome wife, when that happens, the guy feels like, I just want to live in a corner of a roof. So don't, especially women, try your best not to. You got to know how to speak wisely. You got to know how to navigate. You can't just be like, I'm a stand up for. No, you got to know, or else the guy's going to be like, look, just, I want to be up there in the roof. Better to be. Verse 10. The wicked crave evil. Wow. So the wicked, it's not that they do evil. It's because they don't. It's not because they have to do it because of the circumstance. No, they crave it. The wicked crave evil. Their neighbors get no mercy from them. So because they're so wicked and they crave it, the people living next door to them have to deal with their nonsense. They have to deal with their loud music. They have to deal with the fights and the drunkenness, people vomiting outside. Their neighbors get no mercy from them. It's like, I got to deal with these wicked people that just crave evil. Verse 11, when a mocker is punished, the simple gain knowledge. So when somebody who's mocking a sinner is punished, somebody who doesn't know, remember, simple person means they have no knowledge. When the simple see that, they'll be like, I don't want to be that guy. They'll get wisdom, whether they want it or not. They're going to get it. By paying attention to the wise, they get knowledge. Okay? So the simple, they'll get wisdom, meaning they'll get knowledge by watching a mocker get punished. But if they confront a wise person, they'll get knowledge. They don't have to watch somebody get beat up or punished. They'll just be like, oh wow, this person is wise, so they'll get knowledge. Okay? That's come. If you're simple, you should want to be around somebody that's wise so you could get that knowledge, not avoid them. Verse 12. The righteous one. Okay, now it's capitalized, but really in the Hebrew, it's not really capitalized. It could mean God because he's the righteous one, but it could mean also a person that's righteous. The righteous one, but I'm gonna use God first and then just a regular person. The righteous one takes notice of the house of wicked and brings the wicked to ruin. Okay, so the righteous one, God, he looks at the house of the wicked. And he brings the wicked to ruin. He's going to destroy them. He already has plans to destroy them. They're living their best life now. They think they're getting away with it, but little do they know that God is going to destroy the house. God might destroy them because he might evict them. He might, send some, tragedy or murder in there, or somebody that's full of vengeance. God will destroy that, that house. Now the other one is the righteous, meaning a righteous person. they take notice of the house of the wicked. So somebody who's righteous, they'll note that person's house. They'll be like, wow, that activity, is crazy up in there. They'll take note of it, not because they want to participate, but they're like, I look at my house and I look at their house. I don't want to be that house. That's what the righteous do. The righteous one takes note of the house of wicked, but then this part, that can't be them, and brings the wicked to ruin. It's God that brings the wicked to ruin, not them, not the. So in the translators have it right that this righteous one has to be God. All right, verse 13. Whoever shuts their ears to the cry of the poor will also cry out and not be answered. All right. So if you see somebody that's poor, I'm not talking about the meth head or somebody that blew their money. I'm talking about somebody like, their house got destroyed because of a flood or, lightning storm. If they're crying out and they're saying, can somebody please help me? I just need some assistance. And you ignore them, guess what? You're going to cry out eventually. And you will not be answered. God won't answer you, and God will make sure those around you won't hear you either. So we got to be very sensitive. If we see somebody that's in a destitute or desperate situation, not to ignore them, but to have our ears open to them. All right, 14. A gift given in secret soothes anger, and a bribe concealed in the cloak pacifies great wrath. All right, so what is Solomon trying to teach us here? Look, if you know somebody's very angry at you, maybe giving them a gift in advance will help them calm down. I can see this like in marriage. The husband got his wife upset, and he's about to confront her, but instead he buys her some flowers. Say, here, this is for you. She might have been angry just a minute ago, but just because he gave her flowers, it helps calm the tension. So if you're ever in a situation where you're confronting somebody that's angry at you, maybe give them a gift. Flowers, some pizza, I don't know, whatever. Just give them a gift and it'll pacify great wrath. Great wrath. 15. When justice is done, it brings joy to the righteous, but terror to the evildoers. All right? When justice is done, when what's right, when there was an injustice and it was corrected, the righteous rejoice. That yes, finally. But terror to the evildoers. The evildoers don't want justice. They want to continue doing their evil. But the righteous, when that happens, they rejoice. It's just common sense. All right. 16. Whoever strays from the path of prudence or understanding, in other versions, whoever strays from the path of prudence, come to rest in the company of the dead. All right. This is talking about somebody who has knowledge. They have it. They got it. But they decide, I'm not going to do this no more. I don't want this anymore. So, I'm just going to stray away from it. They're not going to leave all of a sudden. It's not like they're here and all of a sudden they disappear. They slowly start fading away, like fading in the background. You ever see that meme where some guy's walking back? I think it's the Homer Simpson meme where he's like walking backwards into the wall and then he disappears into the wall. That's what straying away does. They stray away from the path of understanding. They're going to come to the company of the dead. They thinking, oh, well, I'm leaving this and it's okay because I'll be happy. Guess what? You're heading to the company of the dead. All right. So you don't want to be that guy. You want to make sure you stay, not stray, but stay in the path of prudence. Verse 17, whoever loves pleasure will become poor. All right. So if you're one of those persons that just wants to have pleasure all the time, wants to go out all the time, wants to go on the next vacation, wants to go to the movies, to the stadium, always about pleasure. Whoever loves pleasure, you're going to become poor. So don't think life is all about the next big high, the next barbecue, the next beer, the next social event. You're going to become poor because guess what? You got to pay for those pleasures. Whoever loves wine and oil will never be rich. All right. So in those days, wine and oil was a form of pleasure. That's why it's compared, the first sentence is contrasted with the second. The wine and oil represents pleasure. And if you ever read in the book of Revelation, click on the next tab over here, Revelation 6. it talks about in verse 6, it said, and I heard what sounded like a voice from among the four living creatures saying, a quart of wheat for a denarius and 3 quarts of barley for a denarius, and do not harm the oil and the wine. So in this verse, it's talking about a quart of wheat for a denarius. A denarius was like a day's wage. So in order to get a piece of bread or a loaf of bread, you got to pay your whole wage. And 3 quarts of barley for a denarius. A barley, again, you got to pay your whole day's wage for that wheat. But then it says, do not harm the oil and the wine. Why is this there? Why's the big deal about oil and wine? Go back to Proverbs 21. Well, oil and wine was a form of pleasure. So in other words, don't hurt the pleasure. That's what Revelation 6 verse 6 is saying. That they'll be poor, but hey, the football game is still on. The World Series is happening. Oh, this person is in concert. That's a way to distract them from their poverty, their famished state. It reminds me of the Roman times. Rome was in bad economic situations, but in almost every major city, there was a Colosseum. And that's where people used to come to watch the gladiators fight, people getting eaten by lions. It was to entertain them from their miserable state. And it worked. People, rather than revolt against the Roman Empire, they're like, hey, let's watch some wrestling over there in the Colosseum. It's a way to distract. All right, verse 18. The wicked become a ransom for the righteous, and the unfaithful for the upright. The wicked become a ransom. So in other words, the wicked eventually, if I'm applied to our day, the wicked, they got to get bailed out for the righteous. The righteous now all of a sudden, they have control over their lives, whether they stay in jail for that season or help them out and get a lawyer or not. The righteous got to do that for the wicked. We don't want, many of us don't want to, but unfortunately, there's some families that they have like a godly grandma, but then they got a knucklehead grandson. So now that grandma has to bail him out. She has to ransom him because of his stupidity. And the unfaithful for the upright. So, don't be unfaithful, don't be wicked, or else you're going to put those people in that situation. They don't want to be in that situation. They don't want to bail you out. They don't want to ransom you out of that. Verse 19. Better to live in a desert than with a quarrelsome and nagging wife. So earlier he said better to be in the house of a rooftop. Now he's saying, look, not even a rooftop. I'd rather be in a barren desert with no water than with a quarrelsome and nagging wife. Right? So it tells, what is the verse trying to tell us? Look, don't be a nag as a wife or quarrelsome. Try to express what you got to do, without quarreling and without being a nag. A nag is somebody that just, click on that, click 19. Let's see the other, let's see, quarrelsome, nagging, complaining. Somebody that likes to complain, fretful, ill-tempered, angry. No. Even any person, I don't care if you're a husband or wife, nobody wants to be around a contentious and ill-tempered wife or a person in general. But so don't be in the house, because the guy will be like, look, I'd rather be in the desert. I'd rather be in the Sahara Desert than in this place. And that's going to create problems, because if that's his mentality, your marriage is going to fail. Go ahead, because that's not a marriage. If he's like, I'd rather be in a desert than here, that's not a marriage. All right, go back. Verse 20. Scroll up. The wise store up choice food and oil, but the fool gulps down theirs. See, the wise, they have like a pantry that's full of food, and they store it up. They're like, I got to store it up. You never know. I might lack, things might happen. But what does the fool do? When they see the storage, they're like, I'm just going to eat it. I can save money now. I don't need to get more. I got it right here. They gulp it down. So what is God trying to teach us here? That be wise. Look, whatever you have, store it up. Don't be a fool and just, I got the money, I'm just going to squander it now. Don't have that mentality. Click on it. 20. Let me see how the other versions say it. ESV. Let's see. Precious treasure and all in a wise man's dwelling, but a foolish man devours his. So they both got it. The wise man has full of it because he has self-control, self-restraint, and understanding. The fool, he eats it up. And so, all right, go back. 21. Whoever pursues righteousness and love finds life, prosperity, and honor. So if you say, look, I want to pursue what's right, I want to pursue love, I want to do it, whatever it is, for example, Jesus said, love your enemies as that's pursuing, and you say, you know what, I want to love my enemies. If you do that, whoever pursues righteousness and love, you're going to find life. You're going to have life, because if you do right, you'll live. If you do wrong, you'll suffer. You'll find prosperity. You'll be blessed financially. You'll be blessed with friends. You'll be blessed with peace and honor. People be like, wow, this guy, he's an honorable guy. This guy stands out. Everybody else is, they're all the same. One says he's like him, but he's not. But this guy, I respect. But that's whoever pursues righteousness, doing what's right, and love. You're like, I want to know what love is. Whatever God tells me love is, I want to do it. You'll find those three things. 22. One who is wise can go up against the city of the mighty and pull down the stronghold in which they trust. If somebody is really wise, now mind you, is using militaristic terminology in this verse. If somebody is wise, they'll figure out a way one who is wise can go up against the city of the mighty and pull down the stronghold in which they'll trust. They'll figure it out. They're like, okay, what's their weak point? They're very thoughtful. Somebody who's wise, they're analytical. They're trying to find the soft spot. They're not just, let's just charge. No, they're really an analytical person. That's what a wise person is. So you got to ask yourself, do you really analyze things, or you're just impulsive, or you just, I just see what it is and I'm just going. One. It didn't even say like 1,000. One person who is wise can go up against the city. A city might have 1,000, 10,000 people. One wise person can go up against the city of the mighty, and not only that, pull down the stronghold in which they trust. That one person could destroy that stronghold. But you got to be wise. You got to figure it out, So, all right, 23. Those who guard their mouths and tongues keep themselves from calamity. So watch your mouth. Watch what comes out of your mouth. Be very careful. Don't just say what you feel or think. Learn to control your tongue. Learn to not say anything. You got to learn, like it says, those who guard their mouths and tongues keep themselves from calamity. A lot of people's mouths get them in trouble. And it could be just you. You could be just driving down the street and then somebody cuts you off, and then all of a sudden you want to mouth off. And little do you know, that guy has a gun and he's a mass murderer and he's looking to kill people. Your mouth, now, if you let that person drive and you held your mouth, or you just did, that would have been it. You would have not suffered calamity. Learn how to guard your mouth and your tongue. It's going to get you in trouble. It might get you in trouble. And it's talking, remember, my people are destroyed. I'm talking to his people. I'm not talking to the unbelievers. The unbelievers their mouths are always going to get them in trouble. But even a believer, if you one day say, you know what, I don't care, I'm just going to say what I want, guess what? It might cause calamity. 24. The proud and arrogant person, mocker is his name, behaves with insolent fury. I click 24. Insolent. What's insolent? Let's see. Scoffer is the name of the arrogant, haughty man who acts with arrogant pride or boundless arrogance. So somebody who's a scoffer, remember, a mocker and a scoffer are different. A mocker is somebody who will laugh at you. They'll insult you, but in a laughing tone. A scoffer will say it in a nasty tone, like you're beneath them or below them. That kind of person, a scoffer is the name of the arrogant. So somebody who's like that, they're arrogant. Because even if you try to reason with them, they're not there to reason. They already got it all figured out. Haughty Haughty man who acts with arrogant pride. So that's what a scoffer is. They're haughty. They're very proud. And not only proud, they're arrogant pride. It's one thing to be prideful, but it's another level when you're arrogant about it, like, whatever. It's one thing, a person could be proud and not be, show it off. But it's another thing when they're arrogant about it, when they look down, they talk down, they look at you like, that's what a scoffer is. So you could tell who's a scoffer, because that's how they are. They're arrogant. They're a haughty man who acts with arrogant pride. All right, go back, 25. These two verses are 25 and 26. They're, the same topic. The craving of the sluggard will be the death of him, because his hands refuse to work. All right. When somebody's lazy, that's their death. That's the reason why they're never going to prosper, because they're just lazy. The craving of the sluggard will be the death of him, because Because his hands refuse to work. Look, we're made to work. I remember reading in the book of Sirach saying that we should be one of those people that should want laborious work. But we live in a generation when people don't want to do work. People try to avoid it. Guess what? That's a lazy person. The craving of a sluggard will be the death, because his hands refuse to work. All day long, he craves for more. He craves for more things. His sensations never satisfied. But the righteous give without sparing. So here, Psalm is contrasting the lazy person with the righteous, or the diligent person. See, the lazy person, they still want more, but the righteous, they have more, and they have so much that they give it away sparingly. And say, I have so much. Oh, you need this? Okay. That's how the righteous are. But the lazy, they'll crave all day long, and they'll never get it. Why? Because they refuse to work. So don't be lazy. Be diligent. And then you'll be one of those that it says, but the righteous give without sparing. They don't even ask without obligations. And you want to hear, have it, because they have enough. All right, 27. The sacrifice of the wicked is detestable. All right. Back in those days, people used to bring a lamb or a pigeon. But if they're wicked, and some of them were wicked, they thought that just because they did it, that was good enough. God says it's detestable. Now, let's apply it to our age. If you're wicked, if you're in sin, and you're like, well, I'm going to still go to church, I'm going to give God the praise and all that, God views that as detestable. He's not accepting that. How much worse when they brought it with evil intent? In other words, imagine somebody brought a lamb saying, God, I'm going to bring this lamb, but I want you to kill my neighbor because I want his house. They have no understanding of who this God is. He's a holy and righteous God, and yet they want God to do something wicked and evil. How much worse when brought with evil intent? Some people had the audacity to bring a sacrifice and wish and had evil intent beside it. And we should not, now I'm trying to apply it in our age. How can somebody, give God sacrifices of praise, but they do it with evil intent? I guess if they're trying to perpetrate in a church and pretend like they're a believer, but really they're there to steal money from the treasurer. They're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna pretend I'm a member. I'm gonna lift my hands. I'm gonna be one that's crying. But really, what I really want to do is when everybody leaves, I'm gonna steal the money. God's not gonna accept that praise. How much is even more detestable? All right, 28. A false witness will perish, but a careful listener will testify successfully. A false witness, so in other words, somebody who's lying, who's standing before a judge and they're giving out false information, they're going to be exposed. They're going to be found out for what they are. But a careful listener will testify successfully. A careful listener means they have the true testimony. They're a true witness. But a careful witness will testify successfully. So when they're being cross-examined, nobody could find holes in what they're saying because they're telling the truth. But a false witness, he's going to be exposed. He's going to perish. We're going to be like, you lied. You got caught out there. 29. The wicked put a bold front, but the upright give thought to their ways. All right, so these two are connected. Let me start with the bottom one first so we can understand the first one. It says, but the upright give thought to their ways. So somebody who's upright, they think before they do anything or say anything. They really ponder it. That's what the upright do. But the wicked, they put up a bold front, meaning they pretend, or they make quick decisions. But the upright don't make quick decisions. They give thoughts to their ways. They're like, let me think it through. But the wicked, they don't care. They just do it like, let's go. That's dangerous. We go back about somebody that's hasty. Go up, all the way up. Let's see. Where is that? Wait, go down. All right, go up to 5. It says, the plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty. Go back down. It says that a false witness, the wicked puts up a bold front. They put up a bold front and it's going to lead to poverty. But the upright give thought to the ways. They really think it through. All right. 30. Last 2 verses. There is no wisdom, no insight, no plan that can succeed against the Lord or Yahweh. There is nothing. Look, people. I remember there was a situation in the Bible where a king said, "Look, the Israelites, their God is of the hills, so we'll fight them in the valleys." So they thought, if we fight them in the valleys, they're going to lose because their God is of the hills. No, there is no wisdom, no insight, no plan that can succeed against the Lord. So if you ever concoct an idea that you could outsmart God or outthink God or outplan God, it's not going to happen. All right. Verse 31. The horse is made ready for the day of battle, but victory rests with the Lord. All right. So you could have the horse ready, prepared, all your armor. But in the end, it's God who decides who's going to win and who's going to lose. Again, in the Bible, there was a king, Ahab, who the prophet told him, look, you're going to die. But what Ahab did was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to tell the king of Judah to put on my robes, and I'm going to ride on a different horse, and I'm going to escape that death. Guess what? He died. He had the horse ready, but in the end, victory rests with God. And how do we apply it to ourselves? Look, we could have everything planned out, but in the end, if we're gonna have victory, it's because God's gonna bless it and determine it. So, all right, we'll end there. Anybody has a question, comment, concern, observation? Go ahead.
Part about the ransom.
Yeah.
That I didn't understand your explanation, because it says that the wicked shall be a ransom for the righteous. So when you look at what ransom is the price or payment demanded or paid for such release, or redemption from sin and its consequences. Just like Jesus was a ransom for us, right? We should have paid a penalty, we should have died, but he was given as a ransom for us. He did it, he died. So the wicked are a ransom for us. Not that we have to pay their way out or something like that. They're going to pay for us.
Let me go up. You don't have it?
Verse.
What verse is that?
I forgot. I
just scroll up. Don't worry.
I just have the.
It says the wicked.
Yeah, it's up.
Yeah, keep going.
Do you want me to end it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
End it. This is not going to be part of